Well, that just happened. The background music here. But alright. Let's see here. Oh my god, it's Tywin. Randall Blackfire, hello, popping in to compliment your production. Really liked it. Well, thank you, Blackfire. I didn't know you were watching it. But thank you so much. I think I was a little nervous coming in with this movie because, like, kind of what happened over the past few months is I realized that, like, unless you really know Game of Thrones and the story and everything, it's such a tiny slice in the movie of the overall story that, like, unless you know Game of Thrones, you probably won't be able to figure out what's going on. But I mean, people were very positive in the chat. I enjoyed all the jokes. The Paris Snow boy. I was the guy making Dance of Steel before I started playing Paris Snow, but hey man, were you there watching the movie as well? Because this is the after party. I don't really know what's gonna happen. I'm just like, if from the people after watching the movie want to talk to me, ask me questions or whatever. That's really what this is going to be about. One of the people from the movie was actually in the chat with us, Nerissa. She complimented Tywin's mannerisms. She's the one who did all the artwork and the thumbnail. So she was in the chat. I don't know if she's gonna be here. But I told the crew, but you know, people are busy. So I don't know who's gonna show up. Crazy, you made a film based on that World of Ice and Fire game mod. I mean, it is funny, but keep in mind, my first exposure to Game of Thrones was playing a Clash of Kings on Warband. And I didn't know anything about the story, I was just exploring the world, playing Warband and having fun with it, and discovering some of the characters too. But then when I decided to get around to reading the books, it actually helped me learn better, like, have a better situational awareness of, like, where everything is going on. You know, King's Landing, Winterfell, I kind of had an idea, the wall, and yeah. So you might actually say that was based on that, you might as well. Also, no, someone said that, like, 99% of the budget went into the caved-in face. Actually, no. It was one of the... I'm not actually gonna brag about it. It was actually one of the cheaper parts, mostly because my makeup artist graciously did it as more of a hobby like I was doing. So it only cost me the materials, thankfully. But it could have been, the whole movie could have been considerably more expensive. Pretty much everyone either worked voluntarily or at a considerable discount. But that guy, by the way, the guy who made the nose prosthetic for Tyrion and did the dummy head for Oberyn, that guy, that was actually one of his first gigs. And if you guys watched The Whale with Brendan Fraser, the movie where he's like morbidly obese, that's a fat suit, special effects. And the guy works in the studio that made the fat suit. So he worked on The Whale. You can see his name in the credits. I really do hope he gets more projects. Where did you find that arena? Is that a vineyard out somewhere? No, it's, let me look it up for you. It's an historical fort here in Quebec. Actually, just 30 minutes from where I'm living. It's an historical fort. Here. It's by a lake, and it's really cool. I don't know if I can get... Oh, £5. Thank you so much, Shortcut. I can think of a good joke because I did not watch Game of Thrones, but take my silver stags. Well, thank you, Shortcut. I'm sorry you couldn't probably couldn't follow much on the story, but I hope you enjoyed the movie regardless. I mean, you gave me £5. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Maybe it'll get you to watch it, you know? But yeah, it's a real fort, and it's open visitation. Anyone can go. It's like an open museum basically, and sometimes they have soldiers with muskets and they do fire drills and shit. It's pretty cool. Actually, a big chunk of the budget went into recording there, because like you can't really find a place that looks authentic, but like the inside of the courtyard, this is like the door here. This is the scene like where they come in through that door and the fight happens like right here. The movie was very interesting. Well, thank you. It's like one chapter, half a chapter, from the third book out of 5 currently released. So, you really like the drawn scenes? Yeah, that was also a lot of work. The first part, the title sequence, was actually drawn by my girlfriend, and then I brought in Nerissa to do the second half of the monologue and the credits. And that was also a lot of work in post. When I first made the movie, I didn't intend on having these scenes at all, but it added more context and it supplemented the movie quite nicely, so we decided to go with that. So yeah, that was the fort, and because it belongs to the government, there was no discounts for that. They told me 3 days. We were in there for 2 days. Movie was shot in 3 days, plus an extra day of reshoot. The 2 days that were in the fort were insanely expensive. Also the paperwork, man, the red tape to get there, that was a nightmare. I almost didn't get it. Like, I think I got my official permit to shoot there like 1 week before the movie. I was sweating. The drawings actually remind me of the narrated Dance of Dragons history. Yeah, the series on YouTube. Yeah, I used that as a reference as well when I was making it. Although my actual inspiration from it came from somewhere else. My main inspiration... Well, the way it started is... I made like my first cut of the film before anything was like really put together. I didn't have any music, nothing, and I kind of realized I can't just start the movie with Tyrion waking up. I need a title sequence, and I'm going to use it to like depict the events that put people in context, basically. Okay, you see the death of Joffrey, you see Tyrion's trial, you see the murder of Elia and her children. You know, having that depiction to quickly center Game of Thrones fans into where the story is actually taking place. And for that, my main inspiration was actually the title sequence from God of War 3, which had exactly that. They had a title sequence, and the art they used in God of War 3 was like iconography you would see on like old Greek vases, but it depicted events from God of War 1 and 2, and then the game would start, God of War 3. So that's what I used. Then what also kind of happened is that I had like this whole monologue of Oberyn talking about his trip to Casterly Rock, and I didn't have any visuals, so it was just him on camera with a few exchanges with Tyrion, and like nothing happened. And it's kind of hard to really follow the story when you just have that. So I was like, well, if I have a title sequence animated with drawings, I could just as well have a sequence to enhance that scene. And then from there I was like, well, if I have a title sequence and I have an animated sequence for the monologue, I might as well wrap up the movie by showing the events that quickly follow the end of the movie. So that's what we went with. It really does make a huge difference for the movie, because before that it was just too isolated. But yeah, so that was the movie, so I mean, I'm glad people were enjoying it. I see apparently like 8 people in here. Might be a bunch of people who were in here like, hey, how come you're not playing Warband right now? Well, you know. Wholesome, huge YouTuber gives a shout out to a tiny plot of land. No, but seriously, if you ever find yourself in near Montreal, this is like a 30-minute drive away, and it really is nice. Actually, let me see if I have pictures. I do. Might as well do a slideshow here. I did have some really cool wide shots. Well, let's just start at the beginning. Why not? Yeah, you see, like, this is inside the fort while we're recording. And, yeah, you can see, like, the archers. I really like the archers. We had barrels, like, barrels laying around. I thought that was so cool, you know? We got all the extras in the back. This person right here, Marianne, she's got a lot of cosplaying stuff going on, and she does a lot of costumes, so she provided a lot of costumes for the extras as well, which is pretty cool. A bit late, I was writing a nerdy comment about what I appreciated most in the film. I know worries, man. If you want to leave that comment on the movie, or you can share it here, copy paste. I would love to hear what you think, Telemay. I mean, you're someone who's a frequent viewer, and I mean, I know you know Game of Thrones quite well, so coming from you would be appreciated. Will you be creating more Game of Thrones films? If HBO hires me, sure. What I've been wanting to do, like, if I could do, like, a small other Game of Thrones project, it would be really nerdy, and for that, like, I would need to be, like, licensed by HBO. They would be the ones who need to have the right, but I would like to make, you guys are familiar with, Epic History TV? Let me see. It's a bit long, so I'll just leave it to you for there to see later. Yeah, no problem. Like, you guys ever seen, Epic History TV? Musical artist. They're like this YouTube channel that make a lot of documentaries, but it's all like battle deployments, overlook. It's like what you watch when you feel like playing Total War, basically. It's what gets you to want to play Total War. What I would like to do, if I could, I would like to do an Epic Fantasy TV, and then with HBO, make all the campaigns from Game of Thrones, the books, ideally. I don't want to deal with the show, but from the books, and like the War of the Five Kings, Aegon's Conquest, the wars in Dorne where the Targaryens actually lost, stuff like that. I would totally do that. You want me to actually do like a real series? If I could do a real series, I would do like a live feature of the Targaryens attacking Dorne, because that is such a cool story. I would so do that. I also recommend for you and your team to advertise your film at Salon Medieval in Quebec this year. Sarital, I would invite you kindly, either join my Discord, because you can DM me directly, or my email address is in the channel bio on my channel, so we can get in contact directly. Because if there's some places, because you were the one who said that like you were in a community for Game of Thrones, hey, listen, I'm all for promoting it. But I'm just not a very good promoter myself. I just never know where to look. I don't have that intuition, if that makes any sense. So this is what I'd like. I would totally be down. Because absolutely, one of the main problems that I had when I made this movie, like, first of all, when I made this movie, I already know I wasn't going to be sending it into any film festivals, for one. Because I don't have the rights to the story, and film festivals usually run at a profit, which means that if they're making movie off of someone's work without having the rights, that could always be a problem. However, what kind of happened is that last year, I was wrapping up the film, and I ended up with hiring these veterans to work on it. By veterans, I mean like people who've been in this industry professionally for like decades. I had 3 of them. The guy who did the color grading, the guy who did the CGI for Tyrion's nose. We had like a prosthetic, but the hole itself is CGI. I had a guy doing that, and I had a guy doing the audio mix. And the guy who did the audio mix, he started his career the year I was born. So basically his career is as old as I am. And he was really enthusiastic. It really kind of surprised me initially, because like you see professionals like that, they've worked on so many huge projects and everything, but what he told me at the time is he said, you know, yeah, we can see like the film is rough around the edges, but like the soul is there, and that you can really tell. And coming from him, that actually like really got to me. Like I was really appreciative. But him, along with one of the videographers that worked on set, like they were both telling me like, no, send it to festivals, send it to festivals, send it to festivals. And I was like, okay, but you know, I ran into the same problem. But then what also happened is I started looking for fan film festivals, festivals that actually play fan films. And those turned the movie down too. So I was like, okay, I don't know. You know, one of the things I can think of, like, apart from the accent and maybe, like, the poor interior design, like, the castle was where all the budget for the set design went, you know, but the inside was pretty crappy. Apart from that, I think one of the main problems is that I'm just covering a part of the story that is so niche that, like, even if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, that could mean you watched the show, like, when it was coming out in 2014. You'd have a really hard time following it if that's all you have, you know? So I'm thinking, like, that could be, like, my main issue with the movie. I think it's a drawback that, like, I chose to adapt the story instead of coming up with a story because one of the issues I have with fan films in general is that they're too focused on trying to recreate the aesthetic of the franchises that they take inspiration from, rather than actually coming up with a compelling story. But I'm not a writer, so I was like, well, I'm not gonna come up with a crappy story just to be in the world of Game of Thrones. The story is already great. What if I just make my own version? What if I try and be ambitious like that? What if I show something that the show didn't? It's not to say that the show wasn't bad. I love Pedro Pascal as Oberyn. But I was like, what if we try something else? A different angle, a different interpretation. So one that is more closely associated to the book, but that we still took a few liberties on here and there, you know? So that was the idea, and I think because of that I decided to pick a story so niche, I think that just makes it harder for just the more casual fans, rather, to really appreciate the movie for what it was trying to do. But, you know, it's pros and cons, really. World of Ice and Fire wasn't trying to Dornish men or monsters in the siege. Well, if it's in reference to, like, what I was talking about with Dorne resisting the dragons, theirs was more of a guerrilla war than siege defense, although they did shoot down the dragon in the siege of Hellholt, I believe it was. Great lore. I love that Dorne is the only country that never got conquered by the Targaryens, even with their dragons. They're just, like, unbowed, unbent, unbroken. Like, they are so badass. Sarital, most definitely I can help you with this. That would be wonderful, man. Thank you so much. You should share the film in some subreddits. I am sure other SOYF Game of Thrones fans would upvote it to heaven. That would be great too. Honestly, like, I don't know where it's gonna go. One of my favorites, I haven't watched it in a couple of years because, to be fair, like, I started this movie like 7 years ago. Back then, I was like super absorbed into Game of Thrones. I haven't really kept up in a couple of years. I've watched, I haven't even... Is a new season of House of Dragon out? I watched season 2. I didn't watch the new season. Knights of the Seven Kingdoms, I didn't get started on that either. Anyway, when I was starting the movie, one of the main channels that spoke a lot of Game of Thrones and the books was Preston Jacobs. If you guys are into, like, Game of Thrones community lore and stuff, and you know Preston Jacobs, I actually really like him. One of the things he did at the time, he had a series on his YouTube channel called What You're Missing, and basically he just went episode by episode explaining the differences between the book and the show. And a lot of times he was also highlighting a lot of the things that happen in the books that are kind of like between the lines. There's a lot of different things in the books because it's a point of view character. You might see the character notice it quickly, but it's only as important as it seems to be to that character in the moment. But there's a lot of different things happening, and because of that, there's a lot of theories, there's a lot of, you know, plots and scheming going on in the back that people don't really know what to make of, you know? I had read the books, but I had missed out on most of that layer, you know? And then Preston Jacobs explained it, and I was like, oh, that is so cool. So I implemented that layer extensively throughout the film. If you look at the film, there are tons of details that are associated to all the theories, to all the different things. For example, if you look at the art at the beginning, you see Joffrey die, but notice that in the art, he starts choking when he's eating the pigeon pie, not when he's drinking the wine, even though people assumed that it was the wine that was poisoned. That's a whole theory of its own, that it was actually the pie that was poisoned, and the slice of pie is actually Tyrion's pie, and Joffrey took it from him to eat it, to you know, piss Tyrion off. And so that would imply that maybe the wine was poisoned, maybe the pie was also poisoned, maybe Tyrion was a target at the wedding. Like, there's so much shit going on with that. So just by that drawing alone, I played with that. If you look at the final drawing in the credits, you have Qyburn working on the mountain in his lab in the dark cells, the mountain doesn't have a head. That's a whole other spot for theories and everything that goes with that, you know? And then there's other things that I've played with too, you know, like the ongoing, the accepted consensus of how Oberyn died is that he was cocky, right? He's too arrogant. He's getting too close to a guy like the Mountain. So even though he was about to win because he was arrogant, he got killed, right? Well, if you look at the movie carefully, it gives different possibilities. The first thing that the Mountain does when he wakes up is he chugs a whole pint of milk of the poppy. Milk of the poppy? I don't know how you say it. In the lore, milk of the poppy is like a painkiller, and it's hinted at one instance or two that the Mountain suffers from extreme constant migraines, and he drinks milk of the poppy all the time. So he gets himself like a little shot, and then he just tosses it away, and then chugs the whole thing down. That means he was high on. That means he was possibly high on painkillers during the fight. So he gets stabbed in the armpit, he gets stabbed in the leg, he gets impaled to the floor. Maybe the reason he managed to kill Oberyn anyway wasn't because Oberyn was arrogant, although he was. Maybe he was just so high on painkillers he couldn't feel the pain, and that's what gave him that extra chance, you know? It's not explicit, it's really up to the viewers what they decide, but I decided to bring it there as a way of showing all these different layers of what happens. Benjen being the Raven is perhaps my favorite theory. Really? That could be interesting. I mean, they're all works in that family, right? So Benjen being the Raven, talking to... that is interesting. I'm not actually that familiar with all the theories, so it's the first time I read about that one. But yeah, no, I understand. It's cool. A little odd that they might have mailed his skull instead of just a mainly intact head to Dorne. Oh, I understand what you're saying. A little odd that they might have mailed his skull instead of just a mainly intact head to Dorne. How much time passed? It might have to do if that is actually his head. I think the explanation that Qyburn gives is he had like bees or maggots like eat all the flesh because it was so filled with like a manticore poison, which is what Oberyn had in his spear, that like it would be dangerous to the touch, you know. So they had to like strip the flesh clean. There's a good video about it, should be the first result on your YouTube search, everything just comes together well. Ah, look it up at some point, yeah. But this is what I mean, so I know there's a lot of like YouTubers that speak a lot of Game of Thrones and all the new shows and everything. If those guys took notice of A Dance of Steel and wanted to talk about it, wanted to react to it on their channels, wanted to make their own reviews, or even have me on, I'd be in heaven. I'd be super happy about that. That's about as far as I could hold this thing goes, you know? At the same time, you know, like, back when I was making the movie, I was thinking, you know, it's gonna be interesting to make something that's a little more accurate to the book, if only because it gives a different version to the one that's in the show. The one in the show is pretty good, don't get me wrong. But, you know, it's different enough that it's kind of like re-experiencing it all anew. But at the same time, I know, being a book reader myself, that a lot of book readers, not just for Game of Thrones, but for everything, you know, there's always some book snobs who get upset at the mildest inaccuracy. So just because I was going in that direction doesn't mean the people who would appreciate it actually will, you know? There's that. By the way, how did you guys find the accents? I didn't have someone, maybe it was Sarital or someone else, Ire, who said that they liked Oberyn's accent. The actor who played him, Bruno, is Spanish. He's from Spain. And he did have a very thick accent. What I really liked is, like, when I auditioned him, he was so laid back. I really loved it. You know, it's... I think people are going to debate a lot, like, the different interpretations of the characters in the books, but to me, like, they work. Like, if I was to put it a certain way, I would say that, like, Pedro Pascal's Oberyn in Game of Thrones to me, Pedro Pascal's Oberyn is like the Oberyns with his reputation as a bashful youth. If that makes any sense. Like, he does come off like very assertive, very partying type, very confident in everything. But the Oberyn from the books is in his early 40s. And I feel like Dorne itself, it's mostly the reputation that does the work for him. And so that's kind of how the Bruno who played Oberyn took the part. He already has a reputation as being half mad, as just being like unhinged, just really intense guy. He doesn't need to act it out, you know? And he's 40, you know, he's done his partying, he has nothing to prove, he doesn't have an ego anymore, he's just like, you know, laid back. Same here, loved Oberyn's accent, fit the character very well too. I actually counted the number of times Tyrion blinked. It doesn't match the number of blinks in the book, disliked. I loved Oberyn's accent, so spot on and perfect, but it's more the delivery. The storytelling was so beautiful that he did. And that's what I really liked, you know, you gotta keep in mind that Oberyn in that moment is in full armor, about to go fight to the death. And he's drinking, but he is so eloquent, he is so relaxed, and he's such like good storyteller. It's so, without that extreme passion that he's known for, you know it's all there anyway. And he's just so laid back about it, and his accent, to me, it kind of gave me a... That's what I mean, like when he was auditioning, the first lines he read was, you know, when Tyrion first comes in the room, and he's like, I always drink before battle. And it just gives me so much like Antonio Banderas as Puss in Boots kind of charm and suave. And that's what I really liked about the character, so... It's an interesting... I think it's an interesting rendition of the character as well, you know? Yeah, I get what you mean. Bruno really captures the part of what's made the show adaptation interesting, but also giving the mild, calm, and patient nature of the book Oberyn. Well, it's not that he's so calm in the books necessarily, it's that, again, it's... He is 40, he is in his 40s. I think what a lot of people, like, you know, Tywin describes it in the books as half mad, but as far as we know, Tywin hasn't seen Oberyn since he was a teenager at Casterly Rock, and Oberyn as a teenager was an absolute mad lad. He was a player, he was cucking other lords, and he was getting into fights and cheating by using poison. That Oberyn was half mad for sure. The one in his 40s is going to be more mature. It's going to be a little more laid back, you know. The Pedro Pascal's version kind of kept that same bashful youth. You know, just from that first scene where he stabs a soldier in the hand at the brothel, and that's his introduction, you know? It's all still there, you know, and I think that's a fine rendition, and Pedro was amazing, but I like having that subtler, kind of restrained power, where it's like you won't really know how badly you messed up until he shows you, you know? But until then, you know, he's good. I feel like people like Bruno's accent for the wrong reasons. They like how it sounds like the show Oberyn when they should like how it is so distinct from others since he is from Dorne. I don't think it sounds much the same at all. Like, Pedro Pascal speaks fluent English and he made up an accent for Oberyn. This actor, Bruno, like, it's just his natural, very thick Spanish accent. But he's also so suave and charming in the way he speaks that it kind of just flows in perfectly. It's a Spanish lover trope, in a way. But for Oberyn, and the accent really does enhance the sense that he's from a more exotic land. This is also the thing to keep in mind, is that although, you know, all of... Westeros and Essos are like feudal systems and city-states, Dorne is actually the most progressive. And I think it shows as well, you know, they're more, you know, open, they're more relaxed. they don't care as much for etiquette. You even have him, you have Damon that he flirts with while he's putting on his armor, because it's hinted that in the books they're lovers. Kind of like an Achilles and his cousin kind of thing. So, you know, we just play a little with that, and it just comes into, like, this wonderful character. And Bruno was really good at it. I was concerned about the accent, and other people told me, yeah, sometimes the accent, like, it's good, but it's so thick that, like, it's hard to understand what he's saying. So, you know, gotta find the balance there, but, you know. We already got gatekeepers. You've made it as a director. We've already got gatekeepers. I'm not sure I understand. But I mean, I was directing my movies in high school, and this was my attempt at like a more serious project. And I mean, I don't know why I quoted it because it was really serious. I spent enough on that movie for a house down payment. But yeah, you know, with YouTube and with my the course of my life changing quite drastically in the past few years since I moved in with my girlfriend. Referring to Ari saying people like Bruno's accent for wrong reasons. Oh, I see what you mean. What was I gonna say? You know, when I made that movie, like I was like, when I shot the movie, the main scenes, like everything, that was in 2019. Almost, 6 years ago. Over 6 years ago. And, you know, at the time I was like this ambitious, hungry, aspiring director. No, I'm just like, honestly, if I could just afford a home, my life would be set right now. If something ever comes from this movie, that'd be great. That was the point, you know, having something on my resume that I can use for future projects, but I don't even know how to promote myself. I don't even know what I'm doing. If somehow this reached a production company or someone who's got a script and the money to make it happen and they just need a director or editor, because I also edited it, naturally. That'd be fantastic, you know, but I feel like now that the movie's out, I will likely just keep doing my YouTube thing and hope that still works, you know. Also, let me check actually something real quick. Because I did announce it, but it's not really in his control. But I do know, Teleme, you said that the music in the movie slapped. Let me see if it's public. Yet. No, it's not out yet. Yeah, if you guys like enjoyed the music in the movie, you should check out Oz Nelson. He lives in the region, and the funny thing is, like, this is quite a crazy story with the music, because I met him through the actor that played Tywin, because the two of them together, they made a different project called Enemy of Rome. Sunku, what was the movie's name? A Dance of Steel. It's on my channel right now if you want to go check it out, and then come back and tell me what you think. Enemy of Rome. The guy who played Tywin... Excuse me, guys. Still a little sick. He made his own movie called Enemy of Rome, which was supposed to be a long-term series. It was actually pretty good, but him and Oz made that together, and he made some music for it as well. And it's really cool. And then he told me, like, after, when I started editing the movie, he was like, do you need a composer? Maybe this guy will do it. And so I met Oz for the first time. He came to my apartment. I watched the movie with him. He doesn't do, like... Traditionally, he doesn't do, like, music scores. He's more of like a hobbyist. He makes his own music as a hobby, and he's made a couple of albums, as you can see. The Darkness and Light album, he actually released a couple of years ago, and some of the music from the movie was in there. Storm of Swords, Memories, Call to Battle, and Uncertainty. Those are 4 songs from the movie. He made the music on the movie, and then he was making this album. He had this bunch of other songs together, and he said, well, let me put them together and release a new album out of it. So if you look at Storm of Swords, Memories, Call to Battle, and Uncertainty, those are songs from the movie. They have some slight variations, because they're the versions he made for his album, so they're not the exact same as in the movie. But he is releasing today, normally. The album should be released. It's just he has a distributor that does it for him. And they're the ones releasing it. They're supposed to release it today. I don't know when. But he's going to release the album, and I'm going to put the playlist for the Dance of Steel soundtrack in the video description so people can go watch it. But it's really good. So if you guys enjoy the music and you think it slapped, check out Oz Nelson, man. He's got some great music on there, and I've had his permission to use some of it as background music for a lot of my videos over the years. I even made a video of Paris Snow, of me playing Paris Snow, but I replaced the soundtrack with his music, and it sounds great. Thank you and your team for the awesome project. This is Legacy. You're helping keep the universe of Game of Thrones alive in the world. Creation from our hearts is such a beautiful thing to share. Well, thank you so much, Saratal. It was a crazy amount of work. Sometimes I will relive the stress of shooting it in my mind and give myself a panic attack because it was so stressful. But it was a lot of work. I very much enjoyed it. I met so many great people doing it, so many talented people, and you know, the real credit that I am all too happy to take on the Dance of Steel is of having managed to bring everyone together to do it. Because everyone was so talented, from the people who made the armors, to the actors themselves, to the music, to the people who worked in post. Like, they were all immensely talented, they all had the passion, and they all trusted me, despite having no experience, to make a movie and bringing everyone together. So, to me, that's really what I'm happy to take credit for. But we did make a very good movie, I think, and movie's so good, Oberyn doesn't regret dying since it served as a soil for this plant. But yeah. Hold up. Just hold up, guys. I just need to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do while you guys wait? I'm gonna give you a jam. Because Oz Nelson, one of the last albums he released was Ad Astra, which is a sci-fi album. So not so much like epic stuff like that. But I'm gonna make you listen to my favorite tune from that. I feel like it really slaps, even though it's kind of simple. Aphelion. So that was the last song in Ad Astra. Here you go. There you go. I think I'm gonna do that now. Every single time I go for a bathroom break, I'm just gonna throw in some Oz Nelson during the ad as like an ad, you know. Hans Zimmer has been quiet since this drops. How did they make the last scene of Oberyn dying? Oh, that was quite a process. Let me regale you with some pictures. Oh yeah, there it is. Epic music to poop to. Well, I wouldn't poop to it, but while you guys wait while I poop, absolutely, you guys can bop to that. Where is it? Did Bruno's family receive compensation? I wish. Praying for his soul. Yeah, that was pretty intense. Alright, here we go. So that was the process. Before the reshoot, like, we did a full cast of Oberyn's head. So that was the main process. Ran from Spain to pain. So this is how it worked. We went to Bruno's place. And we had like this goo. We got to put it all over his head with only 2 tiny holes in the mouth for him to breathe through. And then he was plastered in all of it. And we made a cast of his entire head and shoulders. And when he took out the cast, that's what it looked like, basically. And then we had to... I don't know why I say we. This was all the GF. He spent a whole month doing that before the reshoot. This was during towards the end of COVID, so he had a lot of time, thankfully. But it was still a crazy amount of work, man. He cleaned it up a little bit. And then he had to make the hole. And he also had to put in all the hairs around. That was a lot of work. In fact, it was so much work. That's a nice head you have on your shoulders. Exactly. He had so much hairs to put that he only did half the face. So the camera angle just shows one side. It's the side that has hair on it. Because putting it on the other side would have taken way too long. Do you have a 3D scan of that? Can we 3D print our own Bruno? That'd be really funny. I don't know if you remember. I made a video years ago when I first had my 1,000 subscribers. In which I did announce at the time that I was making this movie. And I actually hold the head in the video. I unlisted it since then, but let me go find it. I'll show you guys what it looks like when you hold it next to you. And that's when he put all the guts. He put out a tongue, the tongue sticking out. Put on a bit of blood too, but he had a tube towards the neck and a pump to pump out blood, you know, because you had to. And that was pretty much it. One of the worst things about that whole design is that GF, who made this head, he had actually found a very graphic picture of someone getting their face blown up, and that's what he used as reference to make it realistic. And he had actually sent me the picture. It was absolutely gross. And then he told me that the guy in the picture was still alive. That made me feel so bad. So that's the head. This is a slideshow, so like all the pictures are... this is the guy who played... this is Stefan who played Adam Marbrain inside the apartment. This is what was going on behind the camera, by the way. It was just a big mess. Gonna see if I go back to it. No, those are just shots from the movie. Hold up. Let me go to the reshoot. Yeah, I'm getting close. Got it right here. So, Duke feels bad about a guy surviving an explosion. And losing his entire face on it? Yeah, the guy lost his eyes, lost his nose, lost his upper jaw like that. I wouldn't wish that to anybody. But yeah, so as you can see, we had the wire that connected to the connection in the back. We had the thing, and then he put the wig on him. You know, the whole thing. And yeah, that's a Bruno, like, taking a picture. We took a lot of picture with the head. And this is the teenager who was on set. Because this was the reshoot at the park near where I live. You've got the head, you still got the wig. I don't know if I still have the wig, because for one, it was a very cheap wig, very easy to replace, but also a lot of blood got on it, and blood is very sticky because we use corn syrup. And yeah, so this is GF. This is the guy who did the head, and you had the wig on it, and we're all just taking pictures. We had a lot of fun on the reshoot. The reshoot took a while to get done, but we had so much fun doing it. It was just the scene of them on the ground killing each other. That was just the reshoot. So we had the whole day to do it, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And this is Arthur in the back. This is everyone. Well, like I said, we took a whole bunch of pictures. Yeah, the teenager punching in the face. Everybody taking pictures with it. It was so cool. Lots of work. And this is Arthur here. We did actually impale him to the ground. He had to go to the hospital afterwards. But he took it like a champ for the whole day. That was pretty good. Bruce Campbell had so much cornstarch on his shirt that it could stand on its own. Yeah, well, that's blood for you. It's blood in movie is really sticky. It's horrible. I hate the feeling. Oh, see, it's going all over the place. The slideshow is showing me the pictures in order, so we're just going through the thing. Here's the guy losing his arm. This is my mom, right here. She was on set too. Camera guy, this is a friend from school. Got some extras. Oh, that's my girlfriend. And here's the bucket of blood from when we had the decapitation on the set. The main problem with the blood is that Jeff made the blood. Was this doctor by any chance called Kyburn? Yes, we drew him. But yeah, we got the blood here. The main problem with the blood is that when you make it for squirting, it has to be way more liquid. And Jeff just made me realistic blood. So when we ended up doing the squirt, it got too thick and stuck in the wires, and we couldn't do it. So the blood you see squirting in the movie is VFX, just splatter on top of the footage. But let me see here. I thought I had more pictures of the head. There is one somewhere here. It's the only thing I have that really shows like what it was like. Oh yeah, there you go. This is we had put the armor on so it would show. We had like the whole thing. We put the wig, and in the I was holding the camera, and this guy, he was holding the stick that held the whole thing together, and he kind of just like leaned as Oberyn was falling to his death. Well, he was already dead when he fell off, but you get what I mean. And for the blood itself, the scene of the shot of Gregor punching through and the blood splattering all over him, that was a foam head that had a bit of a hole in it, and in that hole was a bunch of condoms filled with blood, and the thin kind, the thinnest kind that breaks easily. And Gregor, he was holding in his hand a tiny pair of scissors, like a poke, just for to be safe. So we had the head on a stick, it had the wig, and he just punched the condoms, and it just splattered all over him, and that's how we did it done. And it's funny because like so many things happened at the same time that like when we did shoot that scene when we were shooting at the fort, but we ran out of time. It was getting really dark, and I didn't get to do it how I wanted it. It was too simple. Just like what Robert Rodriguez used in El Mariachi. Really? You talking about Desperado? Which scene? I'm trying to remember now. I'm trying to make the reference. I just remember when we were shooting the scene the first time at the fort, and we were looking for how to make the blood squirts. I remember turning to Jeff. He was just in his corner, like checking his stuff, maintaining the prosthetic for Tyrion. And I asked him, like, hey, listen, we gotta have some blood squirting. What's your advice? He's like, condoms. Fill it up with blood. I have a foam head. I'll just tape it on. Let me see if I can find it, actually, because I made a GIF of it when it happened. It was so funny. The first shot we had. Let me see. What? I don't think I brought it on there. Maybe it's here. No, I don't think I have it. No, there was no prequel to Desperado. Very low budget, but it was one of his first project. And then Desperado redid some scenes on a higher budget. Also, yeah. So the original El Mariachi. Okay. Yeah, I have to look into it. If I find it, like I'll post the shot from when we did the first punch on the first shoot, because he didn't have the poke or anything. The condom was just really filled to the brim, so the slightest flick would cause it to burst, and it actually worked out really well. I mean, it worked out here too quite nicely, and the shot is way better. But you know, that's what it is. And yeah, that's how we did that whole effect. I was pretty happy about having like the whole face caved in. Like I said, that head did not even exist when we did the first shoot. The first shoot just had like the angle that you see the back of Oberyn's head, and that was gonna finish there. But because we were doing a reshoot just for that scene, I said, well, we might as well do more, try and do as much as we can. So I talked to Jeff and I said, like, hey, listen, how about like we have a full head? I have no idea how difficult that is to make. I have no idea how expensive it is to make. What do you think? And he was down. He said, yeah, no, let's do it. You know, it says, like, keep in mind, these are going to be your restrictions. This is what we have to do. The one thing that was exceedingly difficult was the nose in post. Tyrion's nose. Hold up. If I just go back to my thing. Oh, whoops. Don't start again. Yeah, I said don't start again. Let me go to my channel. No, I didn't post a picture. I have to go much further than that. But Tyrion's nose, for reference. Let's see if I can find it here. What really happened with Tyrion's nose, basically, this was the prosthetics that we had. This was in progress, but like it gave him like that kind of like scarification on the lip, and it went like above the eye, kind of how it is in the books, really. But obviously we couldn't do the nose, so what we ended up having to do is paint the tip of the nose green, and then we just left it at that. You know, like it's green screen, put whatever you want on top. After talking to the guy who actually did the CGI, he said that this is like the worst thing you can do. He says like you're better off just leaving it alone. Because I mean, we didn't know any better. But the CGI, like he had to create a 3D model of the nose and then put it in and then make it follow. And the most difficult thing, like he told me, is that sometimes like the actor will be like fully profiled, right? So if his nose is here and there's a wall behind him, he needs to erase the nose and recreate the wall behind. So you can kind of understand from there that like the logistics of doing that in HBO's Game of Thrones with Peter Dinklage, forget about it, man. That would have been way too hard. And they're dealing with different lighting, a lot more camera angles. That would have been so much work. No way they could do it. What Jeff, the makeup guy, told me at the time when I first spoke to him over the phone, he said, "Listen," he says, you got two options." He says, "I can do what we ended up doing. I can do you a prosthetic that does the surrounding of the nose, and then I paint the nose green, and you figure it out in post." He says, "The other alternative is I make a much bigger nose for the whole face that I cut off the tip, and that's what you go with." He says, "The problem is, to make it look convincing, it's going to take 6 hours to apply before you start shooting. So you start shooting at 8, they have to start applying makeup at 2 in the morning. Forget it. Way too much. And we didn't have the hours at the fort. We couldn't show up to the fort that early. So that's what we ended up going with. And yeah, we ended up finding a guy who's a veteran in that industry also, who made the nose. And that took a while. He was at it full time for over a month. And there was only like not even 100 shots in total. Still a lot of work. But yeah. Anyway, like I said, I didn't know like how long this stream was gonna be. Like, if you guys have any other thoughts on the movie you'd like to share, anything you'd like to ask me about. Otherwise, let me start because we're kind of quiet here. There you go. A bit of background noise, always nice. Because, I mean, otherwise, I mean, it was a pretty good premiere, about as well as I could expect. I wish more people from the crew joined, but, like, you know, it's... I tend to do my live streams much earlier because I work at night. And then, a lot of my viewers are overseas, too. So it's kind of just convenient, but, like, most people are working at this hour around here, so I can understand why a lot of people from the crew can join. But hey, if you guys have any other questions about the movie, just ask away. Because if there's not much exchanges in the next couple of minutes, I think just gonna be my cue to call it a day. And then next week, for all the ones who are interested, next week we're going to continue as normal. I'm currently doing an Out Caesar Out on the Hill campaign in Warband. So that's what we're gonna do next week. And then I have another big video that I've been talking about for months now that I've had a really hard time motivating myself to do, which is my comparison of Warband and Bannerlord in 2026. I feel part of the reason I've been procrastinating it for so long is because I was trying to get the movie out. I just needed that closure, you know? It made it very hard to focus on different movies. Getting more films in the works? Not like that, no. That was so expensive to make. Basically all my savings went in there. I'm wondering if I shouldn't just like start like a GoFundMe or something just to recover financially from making this movie, you know? I mean, I'm not like broke or anything, like I can pay my bills no problem, but I can't afford a new PC, which is the one thing I need these days. If suddenly like you gave me at the same time, the one thing I've told everyone when I was working on Dance of Steel is I told everybody, I said, like, I don't want to make another movie like this again unless I can actually pay people adequately. By which I mean a lot of people were not paid for their prep time, a lot of people were not even paid a decent salary during the day. Most of the money I spent was symbolic. It was about saying, like, you're not, at least you're not spending your own money on it, you know? Like, you came on set... There was food. I had like my mom came in and she handled the whole catering. We basically had a feast inside the castle, inside the fort. We had like the whole buffet. It was crazy. It was great. And then, you know, people were compensated to the best I could. But also means that people were also severely underpaid. Most people were. If they were not working voluntarily altogether. I'm pretty sure I could have spent 3 to 4 times as much on the movie if I was paying people fairly. And so if I'm trying to make another movie like that and pay people fairly, YouTube would have to be a massive hit. Wasn't there this big YouTuber recently that released a movie? I don't know the YouTuber. I don't know the movie he made, but he's one of the YouTubers making millions of dollars, and he just made his own movie, cutting through the red tape of having to go with the distributors, of having to deal with the production companies. Just used his own money, funded it from the ground up, and he just did something with that. That's my fantasy. If Terry Duke could make a crap ton of money, and I was as rich as these people... Yeah, exactly, Aaron Long from Markiplier. If I had that kind of luxury, then I would be making these kinds of movies. And then if you ask me what kind of movies I would like to do, what would be like my ultimate fantasy right now? I would like to make an XCOM movie. That'd be my next one. Like an actual, like try and do a decent adaptation of XCOM. Because it's one of my main things. It's one of my favorite games. And I think it'd be interesting to adapt. And I mean, video game adaptations are getting better and better now. People are starting to understand how to make a good adaptation. Unlike way before. But that's my fantasy. Game of Thrones? Original 90s XCOM or modern XCOM? Modern. Although it would definitely be my own twist on it for sure. I like the idea of like portraying the story as like an arms race. I also like the idea of portraying the alien invasion as like colonization. Granted, you could try a Jacket Alliance adaptation, but with the budget of what Hollywood film? I am not getting any of these references, I'm so sorry. But, you know, it's about going all in, you know? Like, that's the fun of it. And if you have, like, the people capable of doing it with you, at the same time, I mean, like, that guy who did the CGI for Tyrion, that guy is actually a veteran who worked on some of the biggest movies you can imagine. He worked on the Marvel movies, a bunch of Marvel movies. He worked on Thor. He worked on a bunch of big sci-fi projects. I think one of his first projects was, like, Armageddon by Michael Bay. He worked on that. Like, he did a bunch of crazy shit. He can basically do anything you ask him to do. He can work a lot of magic. However, I did my whole movie without knowing who he was. I make a new movie, and I have some special effects in mind. I can consult him and tell him, hey, what is it that you're going to need? What do I need to take into account if you're going to be trying to do these things, you know? Which, if anything, brings back a bit more humanity in post-production, because a lot of producers these days, they just don't give a shit. They shoot everything on a green screen, change idea midway through, and say, we'll fix it in post. And then people like him who work in post eventually have to leave because the crunch culture is so intense that, no, it's for their own health. I had a teacher in film school who also did a lot of post-production work in Hollywood, and it was the same thing for him. He says it's so dehumanizing. The crunch culture is so insane that, like, you know, their work's not really being appreciated. They're slaving away and being completely disrespected. But, you know, now I know everybody. You know, I have a crew, I have a cast, and the one thing that's really nice for me is that, I mean, the people that I have asked, I didn't ask everybody, but everyone who I talked about it with, they all told me they really enjoyed working with me, they really enjoyed working on my set, and they would work with me on another project if I had one. Which is really nice, you know? This is one of the other things I was really concerned about. People didn't really know me, and they were already taking a big leap of faith trying to make this movie with me. So the fact that they had a good experience and they're willing to work with me again, that's really good for me. It's been a long time since CGI wowed me. It really plateaued. I mean, this is the thing that we have to understand also. Like, it's one of those things that's like, you can't really do anything more with that. I think, like, the last full-on CGI movie that I've seen that was absolutely amazing looking was the Warcraft movie in 2016. But you want to ask me, like, what's the best CGI that I've seen? It would probably be, what's his name? Daisy Jones? The villain in Pirates of the Caribbean 2 with the octopus head. The CGI in Pirates of the Caribbean 2 was peak CGI. And that was that even before 2010? Like, that movie came out in 2006. It's 20 years old. That movie is some of the best CGI I've ever seen, and it's 20 years old. Like, realistically, there's only so much you can do, right? All the Marvel movies today look like shit compared to this. They've so overused it. They are so reliant on it, and it looks like crap sometimes. But to me, like, this was... Dead Man's Chest is probably the best CGI I've ever seen. It's like kind of a reality, too. What you would think is that CGI... Do you fear death, Jack Sparrow? I think it's really it's really just plateaued. The CGI from 2006 should be more doable today for much cheaper. It should be more accessible. More people should be able to do it at lower budgets. And instead, things just got even more expensive, and somehow they look worse. Bill Nighy's performance works so well with the CGI. Tell me about it. Like, his expressions, like when you see him, like he's mad and he's like, oh shit, you know, like he's got a jar of dirt. But that's what I mean. It's it should be doable. And when you take that into account, and now I have one of these veterans who knows how to do all of this stuff, if he's willing to help me out again, XCOM is doable. I can get my makeup guy, if I had the budget to pay him for it and to pay for the materials, I'd have him do all these alien corpses for autopsies. You know that shit? That'd be amazing. We're back to Ridley Scott's Alien on that one, in terms of practical effects and shit like that. But hey, I think there's gonna be as good a queue as any. I don't even know who else is in here. Apparently I got 7 people, but most people are either just listening and not really engaging, which is okay, you know. If you like just listening, I'm glad I'm entertaining you. But that's gonna be it. Overall, you know, this was the movie. Started working on it roughly 7 years ago. I started production on it at around this time in 2019. So yeah, with the movie published now, that's pretty much it. Don't forget, guys, to I put him as a collaborator, Oz Nelson, for the music. Amazing guy. It was really fun to work with. Getting to create my own soundtrack, and we really collaborated very close on it. It was so cool. Nerissa, who did the thumbnail. I'm really hating YouTube right now because of the compression. It looks like shit. But it's a great thumbnail. Let's... Okay, one last thing. Let's appreciate the effort here. I mean, look at this. Look how awesome that is. Like, come on. You even got the 2 characters in the back, Shidra Castle, you've got the dirt moving around, the rain. Even the armor is so close. So identical to, like, what he was actually wearing. Unbelievable. Even, like, Oberyn, like, look at this. My god. She is so talented. She worked her butt off on that thumbnail. Just wow. I'm so happy. I should make mouse pads out of this. Sell as merch, you know? I think I told her that before. I still don't have the rest of the story, though, so I don't know where the line is. I don't think I'll ever make movie. I will never recover financially from that movie. That movie will never make its money back, rather. But hey, thank you everyone who tuned in for the after party. Thank you everyone who tuned in for the movie. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's on there now permanently, so feel free to watch it again. Share it to your friends. You know, some Game of Thrones subreddits. I know this one guy, Artisol, is gonna help me with that. I look forward to it. And thank you, of course, to Shortcut who came here and even gave me a donation. I really appreciate it. Congrats again on finally releasing the movie. Thank you so much. I feel like I can get some closure from this myself because it's been hiding on my desktop for so long. I'm glad it's finally out. And thank you all so much for the kind review, the commentary. I'm glad you liked it. And yeah, that's about it. So I'll see you back next week, hopefully, for more Out Caesar on the Hill campaign. And yeah, I'm just dragging it on and on, you know, it's my stream. Thank you, and have a good one.